The story begins with all of humanity being petrified. A few hours before that, Taiju told his best friend Senku that he would confess his feelings to his crush, Yuzuriha. Senku found it silly that Taiju had been in love with Yuzuriha for 5 years and still didn't have the courage to confess. He then showed Taiju a love potion that would supposedly help him, but Taiju refused. After Taiju walked out, Senku told the others that the love potion was just gasoline. Yuzuriha was called under a tree and waited for Taiju. When he arrived, he was nervous about admitting his feelings. As Taiju started to confess, Yuzuriha blushed. But before he could finish, a mysterious green light appeared. The entire earth was enveloped by the light, and all humans were petrified. In the final moment, Taiju tried to protect Yuzuriha with all his strength. Everyone was turned to stone, yet still alive. They could see nothing. Everything was dark. Taiju tried to stay conscious, hoping that Yuzuriha was still alive. He didn't want to die without knowing her answer. While all humans were petrified, the animals of the world remained unaffected. Centuries passed and the earth changed dramatically. Cities were submerged by tsunamis and modern civilization vanished. Taiju remained conscious but had no idea how much time had passed. Eventually, a liquid dripped onto Taiju's stone body and he woke up. He managed to break free and was shocked to see that everyone else was still petrified. Saddened, he prayed for the petrified people. He soon found a river and began to follow it. He remembered a time when he and 2 girls found a petrified bird. Thinking it had a disease, he had taken it to a vet. Interestingly, Yuzuriha had found a petrified bird too and had the same silly idea. They laughed together and became good friends. In the present, Taiju found the old tree at their school and was happy to see Yuzuriha's statue still intact. He thanked the tree and Yuzuriha, saying that just thinking about her had kept him sane all this time. Taiju finally confessed his love to Yuzuriha's statue and cried as she couldn't respond. After thousands of years, he had finally said the words. Taiju swore to revive her in the Stone Age world. Then he noticed a message left for him and followed the river. There he found Senku, who had already awakened. Taiju tried to hug him, but Senku refused, not wanting to hug a naked guy. Senku revealed that 3,700 years had passed. Taiju was amazed that Senku knew the exact time. Senku explained that he had been counting the seconds since petrification, nearly passing out from the effort, but he never gave up. Taiju was impressed by Senku and was taken to a shelter Senku had built. Senku had recreated the basics of survival from scratch. Still, he knew that Taiju's love for Yuzuriha was his strongest motivation. Together, they started working to restore civilization and save humanity. Days passed and Senku became exhausted. While Taiju gathered resources, Senku identified poisonous and non-toxic foods and grilled mushrooms for them. Taiju thanked him for the delicious meal, especially since Senku had made salt to season it. Later, Taiju found some sour grapes which reminded him of winemaking. They then discovered the statue of Tsukasa, the strongest high schooler. In a nearby cave, Taiju found a basket and thought someone else had survived, but it was actually Senku who had placed it. Senku explained their goal of reviving humanity and his efforts to use nitric acid to break the petrification. Though his first test on a bird failed, he didn't give up and planned further experiments. Taiju, not understanding much of the science, showed Senku the grapes. Senku got the idea to ferment alcohol. 3 weeks later, they successfully made wine. Taiju joked that they weren't old enough to drink, but Senku reminded him it had been 3,700 years. Senku tried to distill the alcohol to make a stronger solution. After many failed attempts and a long winter, spring arrived and finally Senku created a fluid that worked. A bird was successfully revived and they celebrated their first major breakthrough. Senku told Taiju he could choose the first human to revive. Naturally, Taiju chose Yuzuriha. When she awakened, Taiju was embarrassed to see her naked and tried to carry her to shelter for clothes. Suddenly, they heard animal noises. Lions had appeared. Senku guessed they had escaped from zoos long ago. As they fled, more lions appeared. Taiju chose to sacrifice himself to save his friends, but Senku stopped him, knowing Taiju always put others first. They devised a plan to revive Tsukasa. Senku apologized to Yuzuriha for the decision and poured the revival fluid on Tsukasa. The lions closed in, but Tsukasa awoke just in time and fought them off, knocking out the leader with a single punch. The other lions fled in fear. Tsukasa declared they no longer needed to fear wild animals. Senku warned that Tsukasa could become dangerous if driven by greed. Taiju feared Tsukasa might steal Yuzuriha's heart. Tsukasa asked for a tool to cut the lion's meat. Senku warned it would taste bad, but Tsukasa insisted on eating it to honor the life he took. Taiju saw Tsukasa as kind and Senku gave him a knife. Tsukasa bonded with the group and soon learned they lacked meat. He went hunting and easily caught wild boars, birds, and fish using only primitive tools. Taiju was amazed by Tsukasa's Stone Age skills. Tsukasa promised to provide food for the group. He also saved a statue of a young woman from destruction, earning Taiju's admiration. Later, while eating grilled fish, Senku asked a scientific question. Taiju got it wrong and Senku was shocked. Tsukasa tried to guess, but Senku concluded they needed calcium carbonate. Taiju collected many seashells, crushed them, and Senku used the powder to create cement and soap. In this Stone Age world, Senku became known as Dr. Stone and earned Tsukasa's respect. Still, Senku remained cautious. That night, Tsukasa noticed Senku outside building a crossbow for security. The next morning, Tsukasa said that the world now had no owners and told a story. A poor boy once tried to make a necklace of seashells for his sister but was beaten by a man claiming fishing rights. Tsukasa then destroyed a human statue which shocked Senku, who believed he had just killed a human. Tsukasa questioned whether they should revive all people, especially adults with corrupt hearts. He proposed a new world ruled only by the pure. Without greed, Tsukasa tried to destroy another statue. Senku stopped him and said he would save everyone in the world. He also planned to bring back civilization. Following this, Senku and Tsukasa became enemies, each pursuing different goals. Senku knew that Tsukasa was dangerous and that they had to be careful he didn't get to the miracle water. Suddenly, Taiju appeared, excited to have collected enough miracle water to revive Yuzuriha. Senku had no choice but to show Tsukasa the effects of the miracle water. Taiju was happy to save his crush, but Senku explained they didn't have enough miracle water. Taiju wanted to collect more but was stopped by Tsukasa. Senku already suspected that Tsukasa would try to get information about the source of the miracle water. So, while Tsukasa was away, Senku planned to complete the mixture to create more miracle water. Meanwhile, Tsukasa discovered that the miracle water was nitric acid. Senku later explained to Taiju that Tsukasa's ideals were wrong. Trusting his best friend, Taiju believed him. He eventually realized that while Tsukasa could be a good person, he was also a killer. At first, Taiju wasn't ready to pour the miracle water over Yuzuriha, so Senku did it. The rock didn't break off immediately, and Senku explained that the reaction takes time because of molecular connections. Taiju didn't understand but waited until Yuzuriha's rock shell shattered. Taiju remembered how he never got to finish his love confession before they were petrified. After waiting thousands of years, he was finally able to confess his feelings. Yuzuriha came back to life and was caught by Taiju. He called her name and apologized. Yuzuriha replied that she was still asleep and thanked him for saving her. Their reunion was interrupted by Senku, who said they had to choose between two options. He warned that Tsukasa was on his way back and they would have to face him as an enemy. Taiju and Yuzuriha decided to help Senku fight Tsukasa. Suddenly, Tsukasa appeared, determined to impose his ideals on the world. When Taiju saw that Tsukasa had killed someone, he tried to stop him. But Senku knew Taiju didn't stand a chance. Senku shot an arrow at Tsukasa, but he easily deflected it and attacked Taiju, who managed to block his powerful kick. Tsukasa noticed that Taiju wasn't willing to use violence. Taiju insisted on avoiding violence and offered himself as a target for Tsukasa's anger. Senku and Yuzuriha were shocked by Taiju's words. Tsukasa was confused and overwhelmed by Taiju's logic. He asked what Taiju would do if he killed Yuzuriha. Suddenly, Taiju's head was bleeding and he passed out. Tsukasa realized that Senku and his friends were not truly enemies, they just had different beliefs. He said goodbye. Senku woke Taiju up, knowing how tough his best friend was. Taiju immediately got up and said he was fit again, determined to stop Tsukasa from killing more people. Senku said they could only stop Tsukasa with the power of science. This marked the beginning of the war between science and the Stone Age. Senku planned to build a weapon against Tsukasa. He needed to gather materials, so they set off. As they traveled, cherry blossoms fell from the trees. Senku said these were a new species of cherry tree, no longer from the old world. They climbed a mountain, and Senku pulled out a homemade tool to determine the distance to their destination. Suddenly, Yuzuriha spotted something in the distance. They followed her through the forest and found a Buddha statue they remembered from their past lives. Yuzuriha recalled visiting the statue with her family as a child and cried tears of joy. Taiju thought he had done something wrong, but Yuzuriha explained that the memories of the old world made her emotional. Senku and Taiju cheered her up. Taiju said that Buddha would show them the way. Senku realized the statue was made of bronze, which was very useful. He planned to destroy it to collect the material. Over the following days, they gathered useful resources and ate stew together at night. Taiju wanted to protect them, but Senku told him to rest. The next morning, Senku was on a raft with Yuzuriha and Taiju, who acted as the human engine. Suddenly, he noticed that Yuzuriha's foot was still petrified. Taiju used miracle water to break it. They continued their journey and approached their goal. Meanwhile, Tsukasa found their tracks and realized it was a trap. He suspected Senku was planning to build a weapon using science. By evening, Senku and the group arrived at their destination. Senku said they could start creating a powerful weapon using his scientific knowledge. He wanted to build a gun and use gunpowder for advanced weapons. Senku mined volcanic rock to start making weapons. That night, Taiju wanted to talk about his love confession from 3,700 years ago. He told Yuzuriha he still had something important to confess. But first, they had to restore civilization. The next morning, Senku had mined enough ingredients for gunpowder. Yuzuriha added sulfur to a bag, Senku added charcoal, and finally, he collected nitric acid from the miracle cave. Senku mixed the materials and added dextrose. As he was mixing, Taiju tried to help, but Yuzuriha stopped him. Senku said the stone wouldn't explode, but he made a mistake. The gunpowder caught fire, and they narrowly escaped the blast. Despite the failure, Senku was happy no one was hurt and that they could make a dangerous weapon. Senku decided to make a deal with Tsukasa, believing he wasn't truly evil since he hadn't tried to kill them. Senku hoped for a peaceful solution, but he also knew that if the deal failed, he might have to eliminate Tsukasa. Suddenly, Yuzuriha saw smoke rising from the forest. Senku realized someone was answering their smoke signals. He concluded that other people lived in the stone world. He didn't want to put out the fire to keep attracting attention, though this also risked revealing their location to Tsukasa. Meanwhile, Tsukasa was on his way, suspecting Senka had created gunpowder. He saw the smoke signals from the mountain. As Yuzuriha gathered firewood, Tsukasa appeared behind her and took her hostage. Senka realized Tsukasa feared the weapons of the old world. Tsukasa threatened to kill Yuzuriha unless Senka stopped creating weapons. Senka lied, saying he didn't care about Yuzuriha, but Tsukasa didn't believe him. He knew Senku was a good person and wouldn't betray his friends. Tsukasa said he would win, but then Yuzuriha said she was ready to die if it meant saving humanity. Senku was touched by her words and began to reveal the secret of the miracle water. Meanwhile, Taiju was collecting firewood when he noticed more smoke signals. He wanted to report the news to his friends. An unknown girl answered Senku's smoke signals. Tsukasa let Yuzuriha go and offered Senku a deal: give up science or die. Tsukasa didn't want to kill Senku if he agreed to stop. Senku remembered his childhood. He once told his teacher he wanted to travel to space. His father sold his car to buy equipment for Senku's research. As he grew older, Senku's experiments got more complex. Bullies tried to destroy his work, but Taiju defended him. Senku got angry and used science to fight back. Later, he became close friends with Taiju, who helped with his experiments. Senku once tried to build a small rocket, which exploded. He kept trying. Yuzuriha made dolls for his rocket project. Finally, he launched a rocket that flew into the sky and exploded. Senku still called it a success. After reflecting on his past, Senku told Tsukasa he couldn't give up science. Tsukasa replied that he would end his life quickly and painlessly. Meanwhile, Taiju sensed something was wrong and ran toward the volcano. Just before killing Senku, Tsukasa said that if they had met earlier, they could have been good friends. Senku agreed. Then, Tsukasa attacked and broke Senku's neck. After the final blow, Tsukasa realized that if they had met in childhood, they would have become good friends. He wished he had met Senku in the old world before they ended up in the stone world. Below, we see Senku, who is no longer alive, and Taiju, who didn't manage to save his best friend in time. Taiju and Yuzuriha cried for their beloved friend, Senku. Taiju couldn't believe he had died and didn't want to accept it. Then, Tsukasa said they should bury their friend properly. Farewell. Taiju was furious, and Tsukasa sensed his rage immediately. He knew that Taiju's anger could lead to a fight and hoped Taiju would remain calm so he wouldn't have to kill him. When Taiju lifted a huge rock, Tsukasa was ready for battle. Taiju was angry and sad at the same time, but Yuzuriha managed to calm him down. She reminded him that Senku had sacrificed his life to protect her. Then, Taiju threw the rock into the air to distract Tsukasa. Tsukasa was confused and tried to figure out their plan. Meanwhile, Yuzuriha tried to get the gunpowder. She believed in Senku's dream and threw the gunpowder at Tsukasa. Tsukasa destroyed the pot full of black powder, but Taiju and Yuzuriha had promised to fight together against him with the help of science. Following this, Taiju was ready to defeat Tsukasa with whatever means they had. When the giant rock landed, it created sparks that immediately exploded. Tsukasa was hit by the blast and couldn't see through the smoke. However, he was unharmed. He suspected that Taiju's plan was to escape. Taiju ran away with Senku, hoping to save his best friend. Tsukasa was certain Senku could not be revived. Meanwhile, Taiju tried to revive him with a heart massage. Senku showed no reaction, and Taiju planned to try mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. At that moment, Yuzuriha blamed herself for Senku's sacrifice. Then, Taiju remembered a question from school. Back then, Senku said he would always try to save everyone with science. Taiju was sure Senku would never sacrifice himself without a plan. Suddenly, Yuzuriha remembered that Senku had drawn attention to his neck before he died. Taiju realized why Senku was always touching his neck. They discovered that part of Senku's neck was still petrified and immediately understood his plan. They used the remaining miracle water and poured it over his neck. After the petrification vanished, they hoped Senku would be revived. Taiju yelled at him to wake up and achieve his dreams. He knew Senku was their last hope to rebuild civilization. Then we see Earth from space, and a single person counted all the seconds since petrification. Senku was petrified but tried to stay conscious. After thousands of years, he still couldn't see, but he hoped to regain his vision. Suddenly, the petrification dissolved, and he was free of the stone. He was finally able to move again and immediately started researching the petrification. Suddenly, monkeys appeared. They were scared of Senku, because it was their first time seeing a human. Senku was surprised, having discovered a new species of monkey. He looked around and declared his plan to rebuild civilization. He carved the date on a tree and set his goal to save the world with science. Senku tried to make fire, but he lacked strength. Still, he didn't give up. He used his scientific knowledge and smashed many stones, trying to find the right type to achieve his goal. After many failed attempts, he succeeded in making tools and tying tree roots into a rope. That evening, he tried again and, through effort and science, successfully created fire. In the weeks that followed, he cut down trees for shelter and tried to hunt. He lacked stamina, so he came up with a scientific plan to catch animals. He eventually caught a deer. He built new inventions every day and managed to create a shelter with the necessary infrastructure. One day, he collected mushrooms and finished construction. He collapsed from exhaustion and wished for someone to help with physical labor. The next morning, he dug up a stone statue, planning to revive his best friend first. He became emotional seeing his friend's face and tried to figure out how to bring him back. He considered different causes of petrification: aliens using a petrification beam, a military weapon gone wrong, or even a new virus. Senku then started experiments using birds as test subjects. He thought the revival might be related to a natural spring. He found a cave and recognized the smell of nitric acid. He used a hair from his still petrified neck and held it under the acid. The experiment was a success. Then, he poured a bottle of the mixture over the statue of his best friend. The first attempt failed, but he didn't give up. After several days of experiments, he realized what was missing and understood the key formula for success. Senku built a laboratory and worked tirelessly. After many weeks, he created the right solution and revived his best friend. Back in the present, Taiju still believed in Senku's return and hoped for a miracle. As the storm clouds passed, he looked to the sky and heard Senku's voice. They were all overjoyed to see him alive. Taiju nearly crushed Senku in a hug, but Senku thanked them for reviving him. Yuzuriha cried tears of joy. She mentioned that a pattern on a cloth looked like a rocket and thought it would suit Senku. Senku said his self-sacrificing human experiment was a success, and he was surprised by the healing effects of petrification. Taiju said maybe petrification was like a stone of life that could replace doctors. Senku realized he might be right. They then discussed whether broken statues could be revived. Senku said he tried before, but it didn't work. Suddenly, he had an idea and entrusted a secret mission to Yuzuriha. She accepted it, and Taiju wanted to know what it was. Yuzuriha told him they needed to go to Tsukasa. Taiju was shocked and confused. Senku explained that Tsukasa believed he was in the afterlife. He told them to infiltrate Tsukasa's empire as spies. Senku revealed that Tsukasa wanted to use the miracle water to create an army of young people for a new world, but Senku planned to build a scientific army to fight him. Senku sent his friends on a mission to find allies. Yuzuriha was surprised by how casual they were about the plan. Taiju knew they wouldn't be seeing each other for a while, so he ran back and showed a sign of their friendship. Senku said goodbye and raised the flag of science. Meanwhile, Tsukasa sensed he was being followed. A blonde girl appeared and gave him flowers. He wondered if she had been revived by Taiju, but suddenly she attacked him. Her martial arts were impressive, and Tsukasa realized she wasn't a revived person but part of a new generation unaware of science. She accused him of being an evil sorcerer and tried to kill him, but Tsukasa dodged her attacks. He didn't see primitive humans as a threat and decided to return to the cave for the miracle water. Senku heard the commotion and rushed over. Kahaku was surprised to see him, but he asked her to stop talking so he could help. He saw two options to save her, though one was dangerous. She assured him she wasn't hurt, and he used science to rescue her. Kahaku was amazed by his work and impressed by the power of science. She admitted she liked him, but Senku misunderstood her words. That evening, Senku noticed that Kahaku slept with her sword. She said she liked how he lived but didn't fully trust him yet. Senku reassured her and said she could relax. Kahaku learned that although Senku could be rude, he was a good person. She offered to help him fight Tsukasa. The next morning, Kahaku told Senku she needed hot water to make a healing bath for her sister. Senku joked about it, but she clarified it was for her seriously ill sister. Senku saw how much she cared and watched her carry the heavy jar every day. When she slipped, he caught her and offered to carry it, but it was too heavy. So he built a car to transport it. Kahaku was impressed by his invention. Suddenly, they crashed into a tree, and Kahaku managed to survive unharmed, while Senku lay injured on the ground. Then he saw Kahaku's village and was surprised to see many people. Senku couldn't believe the villagers were alive. He thought the village was a settlement of revived people and realized there was no sign of revival fluid. Suddenly, he was attacked, but Kahaku protected Senku. Jinro and Kinro didn't allow Senku to enter the village, saying the rules didn't permit outsiders. They were all cautious. Kahaku asked if they wanted to fight her, but they knew she would beat them up. As a result, Senku tried to convince them without violence. He showed them soap bubbles, and Jinro and Kinro were fascinated. Senku planned to use science to win them over. Suddenly, Jinro decided to let someone else handle the problem and went to find his friend Chrome. Chrome introduced himself as a super smart sorcerer. Senku introduced himself and said he was a scientist. Senku was surprised that Chrome wasn't scared like the others. Chrome said no one could beat him in sorcery and accepted Senku's challenge. Chrome showed them a fire, and Jinro thought a dangerous sorcerer battle was about to start. Then Chrome said he would show them his rainbow bridge. He threw something into the fire, and it turned yellow. Kahaku and the boys were impressed to see the fire turn many colors. But Senku knew it was just a flame test reaction. Chrome couldn't believe Senku understood his trick and thought Senku could read his mind. As a result, his plan failed, and he tried to justify himself to Kahaku. Chrome went to his laboratory and created a ball of electricity. He scared his friend with it, and Jinro thought he attacked with sorcerer powers. Senku saw his ball of sulfur and was surprised that Chrome managed to create it. Senku liked Chrome and showed him the true power of the ball, paralyzing him with the trick. Chrome fainted. Kahaku asked Senku about the trick, and he gave them the ball of sulfur. Senku looked at Chrome's treehouse and was amazed because he had collected all the minerals and scientific materials by himself. Chrome replied he collected everything and called the reactions sorcery. In that moment, Senku smiled because he saw potential in Chrome to become a great scientist. However, Chrome challenged him to a final duel but had no chance of beating Senku in a math question. After that, Senku got his science shed, and Chrome joined his team. Senku discovered all of Chrome's treasures, and they became good friends. Later, Kahaku let the two boys play with the rocks, and Senku got the idea to convince the two brothers with science. Then Senku stuck his spear into the fire and successfully created a golden spear. Kinro said he couldn't be bought with nonsense, but it was clear he liked the new gift. Jinro was jealous. Later, Senku discovered that Chrome had collected plants. Chrome said he collected them to find a cure for Ruri's disease. That was the reason he decided to become a sorcerer. In the meantime, Ruri thanked her little sister for bringing her hot water for her illness. Ruri's servants learned that Kahaku had slept in the forest. Ruri asked them to leave for a moment. They refused, saying they couldn't leave the priestess alone. Ruri convinced them to leave and worried about Kahaku, knowing something had happened. Suddenly, Ruri collapsed and told Kahaku not to put herself in danger for her. After that, Chrome asked Senku if he could use science to cure Ruri's disease. Senku told Chrome about modern civilization and the inventions of the old world. He explained the petrification and the disaster that happened 3,700 years ago. Chrome began to cry and couldn't believe modern civilization was destroyed. He was angry, but Senku cheered him up, saying humanity wouldn't go down so easily. Chrome decided to build a kingdom of science with Senku and intended to defeat Ruri's illness using science. Senku smiled at his words and planned to make antibiotics in the Stone Age world. The next day, Jinro told the villagers about Senku, and they no longer saw him as a threat. The village chief learned about the outsider brought by Kahaku. He was angry because he had disowned his daughter, and she still didn't obey the rules. Suddenly, Ruri's illness worsened, and she collapsed. Meanwhile, Senku planned with his friends to save her, though he had an ulterior motive, to make all the villagers his workers. Senku told them the kingdom of science would produce antibiotics, which had saved millions of lives. Kahaku and Chrome were motivated to help and told him to begin immediately. Senku explained there were two routes to making antibiotics. He tried to explain the theory, but they didn't understand and left the planning to him. He said he could produce antibiotics with 10 billion% effort. Senku planned the steps to make the miracle medicine and showed his friends the plan. They were shocked but believed he could do it. Chrome got excited and asked about the plan to create iron. Senku taught Chrome more about the world but was exhausted from being a teacher. Chrome was glad to learn about gravity and space. Senku showed them the North Star and noticed the positions of the stars had changed. He realized the Earth's axis had shifted slightly over the past 3,700 years, moving the North Star. Chrome thought he finally knew more than Senku and showed him a magic stone. but Senku crushed his confidence by revealing it was just a magnet. A few days later, they went to a river to find more magnetic rocks. Kahaku found lots of black sand, and Senku looked forward to producing iron in the Stone Age world. Later, Senku learned that Kahaku was the only woman with gorilla strength, and she got mad when he called her a gorilla. Chrome suggested asking the villagers for help, but Kahaku said no one would assist them since they were seen as suspicious sorcerer. Suddenly, a watermelon appeared out of nowhere. Kahaku recognized the girl, Tsukasa, who wanted to help. Chrome showed her the iron sand, and she said she could never be useful. She asked Senku if she could help by searching for iron sand. Senku was grateful and counted on her. She was surprised that Senku didn't ask about the watermelon on her head. Senku wondered how they knew about legends from his time. They told him that Ruri had shared stories, including the tale of Momotaro. Kahaku said she had heard all kinds of stories from her big sister. Senku became more interested in Ruri and decided to cure her at all costs. Chrome got jealous, revealing he had a crush on Ruri. After a few days, they collected enough iron sand, and Senku explained the next step, burning it at high temperatures. Kahaku asked about his plan, and Senku showed his self-made Stone Age oven. She was motivated by his new tool. They started generating air with it. Senku told them they needed to last just 20 to 30 more hours to make iron. In the evening, Jinro saw the fire and wanted to help, but Kinro said they had to follow the rules. Jinro was jealous of the golden spear, and they started arguing. The next morning, Senku realized he needed more manpower to make iron. Senku and Chrome decided to bait Jinro with science. Kahaku said they should stop calling it bait. Tsukasa said she would find out what the villagers wanted. They trusted the great detective Tsukasa with the mission. Later, Tsukasa went to the village, and everyone knew about Senku living in Chrome's shed. She gathered information and returned to report to Senku. That evening, Tsukasa told them the dazzling sister wished to find a handsome boyfriend. Senku said it was impossible to create a handsome boyfriend with science. Chrome called Kahaku a gorilla and got punished for it. She didn't like his words. After that, Tsukasa reported that the boy Ganon was sick from eating too much fish every day. Senku had a great idea and said he could already see the scientific bait that would lure them to his side. Meanwhile, Tsukasa played with a dog, and Senku noticed her toy. Tsukasa told Senku that the dog's tail millet is Chalk's favorite toy. The next morning, Senku harvested foxtail millet and said they would make gourmet survival food from scratch. Kahaku came by to eat foxtail millet but didn't understand his plan. So, Senku explained to Kahaku that foxtail millet costs 10 billion per grain. They processed the grain and mixed it with water. Senku then told his friends they had successfully made wheat flour, and they celebrated. Afterward, he began the final step, mixing the flour with eggs and cooking it with fresh ingredients. Senku prepared a feast with high-quality meat, and his friends were drawn in by the smell. Senku called the noodle soup ramen. Chrome was the first to try the ramen and was overwhelmed by how delicious it was. Kahaku and Tsukasa also tasted it and couldn't believe such a dish could exist in the world. However, when Senku tasted his own ramen, he was disgusted. Later, they went to the village, and Senku planned to bait all the villagers with his ramen. As the villagers smelled the dish, Kahaku told Senku he looked like a villain. Then, a mysterious man appeared and smiled after discovering Senku's location. Meanwhile, Senku continued cooking foxtail millet ramen to gather enough manpower to produce steel. The villagers loved the noodle soup, and Senku became popular for introducing them to such an amazing dish. Chrome then offered the ramen to Jinro and Kinro, but Kinro stopped his little brother from accepting it. Soon after, Kokuyo was told that his daughter was feeding the villagers. He refused to eat Senku's food, and Ruri wondered what Kahaku was doing with the outsider. Suddenly, an unknown man said he would prefer the noodle soup with a drink like cola. Kahaku asked if she knew the man, and she informed her friends about a potential enemy. They surrounded the stranger and asked if he was Tsukasa's ally. He played dumb and replied that he had been alone since his revival. Senku then realized he was the famous Asajiri general. He told Kahaku that Gen was a magician who wrote trashy psychology books. Gen said he was a mentalist and asked them to lower their weapons. Kahaku noticed he wasn't scared and that all his words were manipulative lies. Senku announced that everyone who had eaten ramen had to work. As a result, all his customers were forced to help with his steel-making project. Everyone was exhausted. Senku suspected that Tsukasa had sent Gen to spy on him and asked about his friends. Gen replied that they were fine and admitted to being Tsukasa's ally. He explained that he changed his mind after seeing Senku's crazy oven and realizing it might be possible to defeat Tsukasa. Senku and his friends successfully produced steel. Gen said he would lie to Tsukasa, claiming Senku was dead. He didn't care who won, he just wanted to be on the winning side. Kahaku threatened him, but Senku stopped her, saying he would convince Gen to switch sides after showing him a new invention. Gen was shocked when he learned Senku planned to build a generator. Suddenly, storm clouds appeared. Senku was nervous and said they needed to hurry. Suka arrived and brought magnetic sand. Senku planned to combine it with steel to build a generator. He asked Suka to find lacquer in the village. He then scratched lines on a wooden board and poured molten steel into them. Meanwhile, a girl reported that Senku had destroyed the bridge. Some villagers rejoiced, thinking they now had a reason to kill him. Kahaku reported that trouble awaited them and Senku knew his plan would fail if they had to fight. Gen offered to help and asked Suka to collect some flowers. When he returned with them, the others thought he was mocking them. Gen claimed they were trying to stop the lightning using sorcery. Magma didn't believe them, so Gen tricked him. Kahaku was surprised by his magic tricks. Senku said Gen was just a scammer using mental strength to turn lies into truth. Magma left and Senku continued working on the generator. He climbed a mountain with his friends to set it up. Jinro wanted to help, but Kinro stopped him. They realized they needed a spear, and Kahaku found Kinro's golden spear. She used it to store lightning in Senku's magnet. As a result, he successfully created a strong magnet and completed the generator. Senku was thrilled that his plan worked. Later, Kahaku apologized for damaging Kinro's spear, and Jinro teased his brother. Kahaku then wondered why the magnets weren't working. Senku quickly solved the problem. Gen learned that Senku planned to build a muscle-powered generator. Over the next few days, they made great progress. However, Senku's face swelled, and Gen asked about it. They discovered the lacquer gave him a rash. Eventually, Senku completed his dual-wheeled hand-crank generator. He said they needed 2 people who could work in perfect sync. They asked Kinro and Jinro, but they refused. Gen then tried to convince them, saying electricity could be used to make gold and silver spears. Tempted, the brothers agreed. That night, they worked for the Kingdom of Science. Senku later showed Gen a steam-roasted bamboo string. Gen realized Senku planned to invent the Edison light bulb. Senku asked Chrome if he feared the dark, revealing that with science, they could defeat the night. Senku created light and everyone was shocked. He was now one step closer to rebuilding civilization. He remembered reading Thomas Edison's biography for the first time. From that day on, he asked many questions about electricity and taught himself everything he could. He managed to bring light to the darkness of the Stone Age. Senku realized that discovering electricity was a great human achievement, and he smiled, knowing he was on his way to rebuilding civilization. Meanwhile, Gen was surprised that Senku had invented electricity in the Stone Age. They explained Tsukasa to Suka, and Chrome said he was a bad guy. Suka couldn't believe Gen was bad since he helped solve many problems. Senku said Gen wasn't a bad guy, they just needed to win him over. Chrome asked Gen if he heard them and encouraged him to join Senku's team, saying the Kingdom of Science was much more fun. Gen replied that he only cared about what benefited him. Gen then recalled the moment he was revived, thinking it was a prank. Tsukasa told him they were in the Stone Age. Gen recognized him as the strongest primate high schooler. Tsukasa had gathered the statues he wanted to revive first, including General Gen was shocked by Tsukasa's empire and learned about his plan. Later, Gen showed Senku's treehouse to Tsukasa and was asked to use his mentalist skills to find out if Senku was still alive. Gen soon learned about Senku and realized Tsukasa was dangerous. Back in the present, Gen looked at Senku's generator. Magma appeared, beat him up, and tried to kill him with a spear. Jen was badly injured but had guarded himself with bags of fake blood. Senku and his friends rushed to help him. Kahaku said he blocked the blow with the bags, though he was still seriously hurt. They didn't know who attacked him, but Tsuka promised to find the culprit. A few days later, she revealed it was Magma. He celebrated and said he wanted to kill Kahaku too. He planned to marry both Ruri and Kahaku. Kahaku explained they had stabbed Jen because they mistook him for Senka due to rumors of a sorcerer. Senka asked Kahaku why Magma wanted to kill her. She explained that every generation, the village holds a martial arts battle called the Grand Bout. The winner marries Ruri and becomes village elder. Ruri was seriously ill and her only marriage candidate wasn't a good fighter. Kahaku knew Magma was not a good man and only wanted power. After winning, he intended to let Ruri die. Kahaku couldn't let someone like him win, so she entered the Grand Bout to stop him. Jinro thought that meant Kahaku would marry her own sister. Senku learned the next Grand Bout would be in a month, and he understood that if Magma became village elder, it might become impossible to get the medicine to Ruri. Kahaku asked Kinro and Jinro if they'd marry Ruri. Jinro said she was pretty, and Kinro was shocked he only cared about looks. Kinro said as a guardian, he didn't question orders and trusted Senku. Kahaku replied her only goal was to save her sister's life. The two boys agreed to help and began training with Kahaku to fight Magma. Later, she noticed Chrome deep in thought. She knew he truly loved Ruri. She apologized for not training him, but Chrome admitted he didn't stand a chance against Magma. He remembered Ruri saying her illness couldn't be cured, but he promised to try. Chrome said he was fine with that because he wanted to save Ruri using the power of science. Senka smiled, happy to find another scientist on his side. Kahaku said she would also enter the Grand Bout. They worried about Jen because his recovery would take time, and Senka knew time was running out. Tsukasa would soon learn he was still alive. That night, Senka whispered something to Jen, making him smile. The next morning, Chrome was shocked to see Jen had vanished. He ran toward the Tsukasa Empire, and Kahaku feared betrayal. One of Tsukasa's warriors stopped him with an arrow. Jen reported to Tsukasa that he found a primitive village and claimed Senku was dead. Then we see Senka stop Kahaku from chasing General. He explained that if Jen truly had no interest in science, he never would have helped them. Senka knew he wouldn't betray the kingdom of science. The reason was that the day before, Jen asked him if he could make coke. Senka replied that he sure could make cola. As a result, Jen didn't snitch on him and reported that Senku was dead. So, Kahaku was happy that they won the first battle and looked forward to having a new team member in the kingdom of science. In the meantime, Jen couldn't believe he had risked his life for a bottle of cola. Then Senka planned to make a bottle of coke in time for his return. In the following week, we see Kahaku training Jinro and Kinro for the upcoming competition. Meanwhile, Senka planned the next step to create medicine for Ruri. He told Chrome that they would produce glass. Chrome didn't know what glass was, so Senku explained that you can mix chemicals very well with it. Senka also planned to make glasses for Tsuka. Kahaku was surprised by how cute Tsuka looked. Unfortunately, Tsuka couldn't see properly without her melon helmet. Tsuka said she had the fuzzy sickness in her eyes and ended up looking weird when she tried really hard to see. Senku explained to them that after inventing glasses, they could correct Tsuka's poor eyesight. He told Tsuka that she was nearsighted, not sick. That's how Tsuka learned about glasses from the old world, which allowed many people to live normal lives. Tsuka wished to see the beautiful world with all her friends, and Senka wanted to fulfill her wish. Following this, Chrome showed Senku a place where he found quartz. Senka dug on the mountain and showed Chrome the raw material to make glass. Then they started working together and had a lot of fun digging up the quartz sand. In the evening, Senka began the next process and heated the quartz sand in his furnace. The next morning, Senka was exhausted, but he wanted to continue working. Finally, he produced lens glass, and everyone wondered what he was going to do with the new device. Chrome understood his plan, and they began to grind and polish the lens glass. They worked every day and made good progress. A few days later, Senku was able to create lens glasses to grant Tsuka her wish. Later, they set out to show Tsuka the beautiful world she had never seen. Senka asked her if she could see the flowers in front of her. She tried to focus her eyes, and suddenly, Senka placed the bowler hat with the lens glass on her. She was finally able to see the beautiful sunflower in front of her. Tsuka cried tears of joy and was grateful for Senka's gift. Meanwhile, Kahaku mimicked Magma's attacks and Kinro couldn't manage to block them. She made Kinro aware that he always misjudged distance. Jinro knew about his brother's problem. He also had poor eyesight. Jinro was worried about his brother but promised not to tell anyone. Then we see Senku already planning his next project and being yelled at by Chrome for sounding like a villain. The following morning, Senku began making many black rocks that foamed when heated. Senku explained to her that the foam was used as insulation to make a glass-blowing furnace. Then Senku produced an iron straw to blow the glass with air. Unfortunately, his attempt to make glass instruments failed, and Senku suspected that working with a craftsman would be more successful. So Chrome kidnapped an old man and asked Kaseki to help them, but Kaseki got angry and said he wasn't into bondage games. Then Suka showed up to return the lacquer she had borrowed. Senku learned that Kaseki was the one who made the fantastic shield of Kahaku. At that moment, Kahaku remembered the happy time when she was given her father's shield. Knowing that Kaseki was a talented craftsman, Senku showed him his project. Senku knew he could bait him with his glass. He explained his plan to make glass instruments. Chrome was able to pique Kaseki's interest, and Kaseki couldn't stand their clumsiness. Senku's plan worked. Kaseki freed himself from the ropes, transformed into mutant Rashi, and surprised them with his muscles. Following this, Kaseki showed them his craftsmanship skills and started the process of rounding the glass. Senku and Chrome were impressed, and Kaseki had a lot of fun making the glass instruments. The following morning, Senku acquired a science lab and began his experiments. He remembered when his father created a space for him to do science and looked forward to further achievements. Senku declared that from now on, they would invent more awesome things and have more fun than in Tsukasa's land. After that, we see Mecha Senku. He explained Senku's kingdom of science. It started with his base. Then we see Senku's food truck that served corn. Next, Mecha Senku showed that Senku unlocked an industrial furnace to produce metal. He also introduced his fighters preparing to face magma. Jinro was lazy and was forced to generate power with Senku's generator. In addition, Senku had obtained Kaseki, who used his muscles to make glass instruments. As a result, Senku was given a lab, and they were now in a good position to save Ruri with antibiotics. Chrome realized the kingdom of science was starting to heat up, and Senku agreed. Then Senku told Chrome that technology used to be even crazier before the world collapsed. Meanwhile, Jinro was jealous of the sorcery team because they looked like they were having a lot of fun. Suddenly, Jinro said that shining spears gave them more motivation to become stronger. Kinro agreed, and they asked Senku to embellish their spears with gold and silver. Senku knew that gold or silver spears wouldn't be useful in combat, but he accepted their request. He said he would make Jinro a silver spear, and Kinro was sad. Suddenly, Senku told Jinro not to rejoice too soon, as it would be dangerous to make a silver spear. The following day, Chrome was surprised to see Senku using a strange-looking plant to make silver. Jinro was happy to get a silver spear and teased Kinro for not getting anything. As punishment, Kahaku knocked Jinro unconscious for teasing his brother. Then Senku successfully created a silver spear for Jinro, but he wanted to use it for another purpose. He said Jinro's job would be to serve as the team's bodyguard. Senku explained that the spear would act as a sensor. If a deadly threat appeared, the spear would turn black. He told them they would all have to run immediately to survive. Later, they discovered a river where no fish were swimming. Senku said their goal was upstream. Meanwhile, Jinro was scared of dying, and Senku yelled at him for running back. Kahaku offered to swap places, but Jinro refused to give up his silver spear. Then they reached their destination, and Senku was totally exhausted from the mountain hike. Kahaku was surprised by the sight. They had found a whole emerald spring. At that moment, Jinro hallucinated an angel calling him and ran toward the spring. Senku had a strange feeling and wondered why Jinro's spear didn't react to the poisonous gas. They saw Jinro running into the poisonous emerald spring, and Senku ordered him to come back. At the last moment, Kahaku saved Jinro. A group of crows had been lured into the spring water, so they realized the enemy was trying to kill them. Kahaku tried to calm Jinro down. Senku explained to them that sulfuric acid is a miracle drug in science, but also very dangerous. Later, he told them they couldn't make antibiotics without sulfuric acid. Kahaku was willing to risk her life, but Senku stopped her. He told her a story about a group that went to do research in an area with sulfuric acid. Then Senku smiled and said he would solve the problem with gas masks. In the evening, Senku was ready for the fight against sulfuric acid and knew a single mistake could mean death. Senka asked Chrome to stay at the base because there was no guarantee the gas masks would work and Chrome was the only one who could save Ruri if something happened. Senka said he would pass down all the science he knew right then. He told Chrome he didn't plan to die but couldn't risk losing the science. Chrome replied that he would come along because he wouldn't let Senka down. The reason was that Chrome considered Senku an important friend and couldn't just let a friend die. He showed his determination and said he didn't want to be protected. Chrome said they were both scientists who could save each other in times of need. Senku was touched by his words and Chrome was able to convince him. Senka's friends also risked everything to advance science, so Chrome said he would follow him no matter how dangerous their adventure would be. Senka trusted him with his life, and they formed a team. Kahaku then remembered the day it was decided that she should be the next priestess. She had no intention of helping with a plan that accepted Ruri's death as an outcome. As a result, she refused and tried to find a way to save her beloved sister. She thought that if she wasn't able to take on the role of the priestess, Ruri would have no reason to leave the world. After hearing Chrome's words, Kahaku was happy and she wished Chrome could marry Ruri. She knew Chrome had always loved her sister and would risk his life for her at any time. Unfortunately, the marriage between them would not be possible and Kahaku asked if she should be his wife. Chrome understood that she wasn't serious about her proposal and said that he would never marry a gorilla. In the morning, Senka started the final process for his gas masks. After some crafting, Senku and Chrome received gas masks. Later, they were on their way to the Emerald Spring. Jinro was ashamed because he was terribly scared. He declined to accompany them and said he would never return to that place. Following this, Senka said they couldn't force him and they went off without Jinro. Back in the present, Senku and Chrome arrived and his silver spear turned black. Chrome was aware that they could die instantly, but Senka just ran into the dangerous place without hesitation. Senka said freaking out helps him even less. Then Chrome realized that Senku was scared too and he accompanied him without complaining. Meanwhile, Kaseki noticed that Jinro was in a bad mood and he freaked out. Kaseki told him that he shouldn't be ashamed of being afraid. He said that all people have fears and there is nothing they can do about it. At that moment, Jinro realized that Kaseki was right. He realized that despite their fear, they faced the dangers. Jinro was cheered up and Kaseki said he accidentally made another mask. Later, Senku and Chrome were mining rocks and Chrome alerted Senku that his gas mask was melting. Senku was glad there were two of them and immediately repaired his mask. Suddenly, Chrome tripped and Senku tried to save him, but Chrome knew he was going to die. Jinro appeared at the last moment and tried to save Chrome with a spear. He tried to pull Chrome out with all his strength and Senku told him to control his breath. Jinro faced his fear, used all his power, and was able to defeat the evil monster. They managed to capture the sulfuric acid and their mission was a complete success. Senku and his friends celebrated their victory and were ready for the final step. The following day, Suka waited for her friends to return. Suddenly, Senku appeared and Kahaku couldn't wait to make the medicine for her big sister. She was reminded of the long roadmap, but Senku assured her that they had all the resources needed to start producing antibiotics. Following this, Senku started to boil the sulfuric acid and added a little bit of salt. Suka wondered what the weird glass sculpture was for, and she learned that it was a water-dripping machine. As a result, Senku received hydrochloric acid and he explained to them that the chemical is very dangerous. He then produced more dangerous chemicals and stated that chemicals could kill a person instantly. Kahaku learned that no one would drink the chemicals and she was shocked when Senku produced ammonia. Later, Senku said they only needed alcohol to make the miracle medicine. Kaseki told them that they could win alcohol in tomorrow's tournament. They were happy to hear this and Chrome expected the two brothers to win tomorrow's grand bout. Then we see Kokuyo and he was glad that the new village chief would be chosen tomorrow. However, there was a problem because Kahaku signed up for the grand bout too and Kokuyo learned of Senku's participation. The reason was that Jinro helped him register for the grand bout. The girls were shocked by the news. Senku replied that he didn't plan on winning and would only try to increase their team's chance of victory. Kinro wanted to win fairly and the two boys said they would help him win the grand bout. He was disgusted by their plan and complained to Kahaku. She then replied that she only wanted to save Ruri and Kinro was touched by her words. The following day, the villagers were all waiting for Senku. He walked on the bridge and Kahaku was happy that he was allowed to enter the village after half a year. Senku knew it would be the first step to success, and all the villagers stared at him. Kokugo learned his name was Senku, and Ruri knew the name for some reason. She said she knew his name even though they had never met. Then she ran towards Senku and spoke to him. She wanted to know his last name. Before he could answer, Ruri collapsed in front of him and he was ordered to stay away from her. She was carried back to the hut and Senku understood that they had a lot to talk about. Meanwhile, Magma made fun of Ruri and Chrome stopped Kahaku so she wouldn't do anything wrong. At that moment, Kahaku remembered that Chrome also helped train the two brothers every day because he wanted to protect Ruri from Magma. Following this, the contestants learned their matchups and Senku planned for Kinro to win against Magma in the finals. Suka prayed to God and hoped that everything would go smoothly. A short time later, they learned that Kinro would fight Magma in the first round. Senku wasn't discouraged and revealed that he had made a special drink using science. He said it would make them stronger, and Jinro drank it alone because he was nervous. However, Senku said it wasn't bad and Suka went to collect more of the grass. Later, they waited for the first battle to begin. Suddenly, Mantle appeared and reported that Suka was drowning near the river. Senku and Chrome knew he was lying and asked how he knew about the grass by the river. Kahaku said she was aware Mantle was lying, but she was still worried about Suka. Afterwards, Chrome tried to stop the fight, but Jasper replied that if she didn't show up on time for the third match, she would be disqualified. Magma was happy and confident that with Kahaku's absence, he would win the grand bout. Magma said if Kinro surrendered, he would appoint him as his right-hand man. Kinro refused because he wanted to fulfill his duties to his friends. After the conversation, the fight between Kinro and Magma began. He attacked Magma with powerful blows and surprised everyone with the strength he gained. Meanwhile, Mantle tried to sabotage Kinro, but Chrome warned him that Jasper would punish his team. Senku overheard the conversation and decided to stop Mantle's sabotage attempt. Suka, who was tied to a tree, managed to free herself and returned to the village. Meanwhile, Magma distanced himself and Kinro had trouble judging the distance. Suka noticed that Kinro had the same eye problems as her. She ran to Senku and said that Kinro also suffered from the fuzzy sickness. Then Magma started attacking him and managed to seriously injure Kinro because he couldn't judge the distance. Kinro couldn't move anymore but didn't allow himself to let his friends down. Suddenly, Suka stood on the highest point of the island and planned to support Kinro. She rolled down the stairs and used the momentum to throw her helmet at Kinro. She told him to use the eyes of science. He jumped towards her melon helmet, transformed into Melon Ranger, and the boys were shocked. Kinro couldn't believe that through the power of science, he could now see all movements clearly. Kinro gained observation-like skills and dodged all of Magma's attacks with ease. Then he started attacking and punched Magma in the face. After his strong attack, he said that science helped him overcome his weakness. Suka was amazed by his Melon Ranger performance and they celebrated Kinro's victory against Magma because they had defeated the most dangerous opponent. Then Magma said that Kinro had broken the rules by wearing the melon mask. Magma wanted to accept his loss unless the referee declared the fight invalid. Kinro asked if the melon helmet was against the rules, but Jasper said it was not. Suddenly, Magma appeared behind Kinro and hit him on the head with all his might. As a result, Kinro was knocked out and Magma won the fight because he let his guard down. Kinro apologized, but Senku was still confident of victory. Afterwards, Mantle provoked them and said Kahaku would be disqualified because she went to save Suka. Suka was worried but couldn't see well without the lenses. Everyone realized the situation was serious and Kahaku found out that Suka was safe. The second fight began and Chrome tried to buy time for Kahaku to return, but she was already on her way back to the village. Magma immediately ordered Mantle to give up the fight and Chrome won. The third battle began and Senku was declared the winner because Kahaku failed to return in time. Suka couldn't forgive herself that Kahaku was disqualified, but she was happy because Suka was unharmed. Suka apologized, but Kahaku hugged her and wasn't angry. Afterwards, all the villagers thought Magma would marry Ruri and Ruri was disgusted by him. Suddenly, Senku said that Jinro must become a hero and everyone doubted him. Jinro was confident he would win because he drank Senku's special drink. He got ready for battle and thought the grass would give him a power-up. As a result, Jinro imagined he had been transformed into a superhero, but in reality he was staggering like a drunk. Senku was confident that Jinro could win. Jinro attacked and got his opponent into trouble with super fast attacks. Then his opponent tried to use the same move but was immediately exhausted while Jinro was bursting with energy. Unfortunately, it didn't correspond to reality and Jinro was seriously injured by his opponent's attack. Despite everything, he managed to defeat his opponent and won the fight. Later, reality caught up with him and he had stomach problems that made him unable to continue fighting. This left Senku and Chrome to win against Magma so they could save Ruri. Chrome was motivated to win against Magma and was entrusted to save Ruri, whom he had loved since childhood. Everyone hoped that Chrome would find a way to outsmart Magma and the battle began. After the fight started, Chrome was immediately knocked to the ground and tormented by Magma. Everyone wanted Chrome to give up, but he refused because he knew Ruri would die otherwise. Suddenly, Jen showed up and noticed Chrome's dire situation. Magma made fun of him and said he was happy to see Ruri's tears as she begged for his life. But Chrome couldn't accept his defeat and tried to do something with the melon helmet. Then he attacked Magma and tried to use science to defeat him. They wondered what Chrome was doing and he planned to start a fire by using a lens. Senku immediately realized the plan and explained that Chrome was trying to make a fire. Kahaku and Suka learned that he was using science to try to win the fight. Chrome believed that with the science he learned from Senku, he would save Ruri. Magma looked down on him and Senku said his plan wouldn't work. Then Senku suddenly realized that Chrome had planned to get injured so his tear could change the concave lens. Afterwards, Senku noticed that Jen had appeared in the village watching the fight. Jen was looking forward to his cola and asked when the fire would start. Then Senku calculated using his scientific formulas and realized Chrome needed 1 more minute to start the fire. Mentalist skills were used to buy Chrome enough time, allowing him to confuse Magma and claim that he had used magic to survive the murder attempt. Magma was bewildered and said he would curse Magma. Jen supported Chrome and claimed his heart would explode if he tried to complain afterward. Magma was terrified. Although Chrome's acting was terrible, Jen managed to immobilize Magma for a minute. Meanwhile, Jen knew that Magma had fallen for their lie and they waited for Chrome's opportunity to win. They believed Magma had no chance of winning. Unfortunately, Magma noticed the liquid was shaking, which helped him calm down. He then focused on saving Ruri and managed to start a fire that burned Magma. Chrome declared he wouldn't kill him and instead hit him in the balls. As a result, Chrome was declared the winner of the grand bout. Everyone celebrated Chrome's victory because Team Science had won the grand bout. Ruri was overjoyed and everyone congratulated Chrome. After the fight, Magma said he would wait for Senku outside the village. Ruri was happy Chrome had won and Jinro gave up, realizing she loved Chrome. However, Ruri replied that, as a priestess, she served only God and would marry whoever won the grand bout. This motivated Jinro to try and win to become her fiancé. Jasper couldn't believe how foolish Jinro was being. The second match began and Jinro attacked Senku with full force because he wanted to marry Ruri. Kinro and Kahaku were shocked and disgusted by him. Jinro planned to create a harem with his new power as village chief, even though no one wanted him to be the chief. Senku tried to avoid his attacks. Suddenly, Chrome used his last bit of strength to throw him the melon helmet. Senku used this opportunity and planned to defeat Jinro using science. He succeeded and Kokuyo realized Senku was truly a genius. Senku was declared the winner and Chrome was happy they could now save Ruri. Senku had originally planned to lose on purpose so Chrome could marry Ruri. However, since he was unconscious during the match, he unintentionally won and was crowned the winner of the grand bout, making him Ruri's fiancé. Senku decided to marry Ruri in order to preserve the village, although Kokuyo initially refused to accept it. Senku annoyed him and demanded respect as the new village chief. Later, Senku's alcohol was brought to celebrate the wedding, but Ruri suddenly collapsed and coughed up blood. Senku decided to return to the Kingdom of Science. The villagers wanted to celebrate, but he said he was getting a divorce and ran off to create antibiotics. Everyone was shocked and Ruri became the first divorced priestess. Kokuyo was furious, but Kinro reassured him that Senku was a good person. Later, Kaseki began working on a new invention and Jen was forced to help. At the lab, Senku woke Chrome with the smell of ammonia. Chrome immediately joined in and they began producing medicine for Ruri. When they ran out of charcoal, Senku assured Chrome that he had collected burned coal and mixed vinegar and alcohol. Chrome realized they had many tasks ahead of them. Team Science worked through the night to create antibiotics. The next morning, Jen poured water into a glass and realized Senku had made carbonated water. Remembering Senka's promise of cola, he got excited, only to find Senku and Chrome passed out in the lab due to a small explosion from adding too many chemicals. Senku was still determined to make the medicine, not cola. Everyone gathered, remembering their hard work and fun times together. At last, Senka successfully created antibiotics in the Stone Age. They all celebrated the accomplishment, and Senka told Kahaku it wasn't time to cry yet, not until Ruri was saved. Senka entered the village and showed Ruri the medicine. Ruri trusted him and agreed to take the antibiotics. He examined her condition while villagers watched in curiosity. That evening, he planned an experiment with a mouse, which confused General Senka suspected Ruri had a bacterial infection. He explained she might not be cured if it was pulmonary tuberculosis. Suddenly, Suka reported that Ruri was in pain. Kokuyo was worried, and when they arrived at the hut, Senka behaved strangely. Kokuyo wanted to attack him, but it turned out Senka had realized Ruri could be cured. He confirmed her illness could be treated with medicine and declared they had won. He prescribed more antibiotics, and Kahaku convinced her father to trust Senku. A few days later, Senku was impressed that Ruri had survived until age 18. He realized it was because Kahaku had brought her hot spring water every day, which helped protect her. Ruri was finally healthy again and happily told her father a secret about Senku. She had known his last name for a long time. Later, Senku was officially named chief of Ishigami village. He was surprised, and Ruri explained everything now made sense. She confirmed he was mentioned in the priestess mythology. Chrome and Kahaku were confused until Ruri remembered one of the 100 Tales, a true story titled Ishigami Senku. The story of Senku began on a night when he asked questions about the moon. His father, Byakuya, noticed his interest in science and gave him advice. That night, Senku learned that his father had failed the astronaut exam again. The next day, Senku set a goal to go to space. He began experimenting diligently, even stealing a doll from school for science experiments with his friend Taiju. He tried to help his father learn to swim through an experiment, which unfortunately caused Byakuya pain from an electric shock. Still, Byakuya smiled underwater, understanding Senku's intentions. In an interview, Byakuya said he made it that far because his son believed in him. The interviewers were impressed, and Byakuya vowed to become an astronaut for his son's sake. 5 years later, Byakuya and his team boarded the spaceship. He took the microphone and promised to bring science souvenirs for Senku. The launch began, and Senku's story continued. We then learned about Byakuya in space. Upon arrival at the International Space Station, he was greeted by Jacob and introduced to the rest of the crew. Lily, a celebrity, played a prank, but Byakuya found her bad acting funny, ruining her joke. Lily apologized, and they all became friendly. Connie, a fan of Lily, asked for an autograph. Byakuya teased Lily, suggesting they play her songs every day. Later, Lily held a live concert in space. The whole world heard her voice, and her popularity soared. After the concert, she asked if the two men wanted to call their families. Byakuya mentioned his son was likely busy with science. Meanwhile, Senku was analyzing the petrified birds and found the global phenomenon fascinating. That night, Lily couldn't sleep and woke up Byakuya. They had a light-hearted exchange where she shared that music had been her passion since childhood, even singing to herself after her Walkman broke. Byakuya noticed that she had fallen asleep and apologized to her. Then Byakuya looked at Earth and asked if she could sing a song to Senku someday. A few days later, Byakuya was seen playing with miso soup in space. Later, he planned to let Jam taste Japanese dishes and was shocked to learn that Jam drank the same thing every day. Byakuya then gave Jam his custom-made ramen. However, when Jam tried the ramen, he had a surprised expression on his face. He looked shocked because Earth had suddenly glowed green. The others also saw the disaster and couldn't believe what was happening on Earth. At that moment, all the residents were petrified, and Byakuya became worried about his son, Senku. Unfortunately, they couldn't do anything from space and couldn't reach a single person. They realized something had happened on Earth and tried to search for information through the internet. Byakuya had the idea of watching a live camera. Suddenly, they saw that everyone on Earth had been petrified. All the crew members were shocked and didn't know what to do. At that moment, Byakuya suggested flying back to Earth. He said they were humanity's last hope and would save everyone. Then we see the moment right before Senku was petrified and dropped his monster energy drink. Meanwhile, Byakuya found out that the petrification beam was launching from South America. He planned to save his son and humanity at any cost. He put on his astronaut suit and planned to fly back to Earth immediately. But Jam offered to go down first because Byakuya had a son waiting for him. Jam said that if Byakuya died, no one would be there to raise his son. He convinced Byakuya that the best option was to send him since he had no family. Byakuya didn't want to risk Jam's life for his own goals, but Jam promised he would arrive safely on Earth. Senku counted the time, and a group of astronauts managed to land safely on Earth. Unfortunately, Jam reported that they had landed in the sea and that the hatch would sink as soon as it was opened. Senku didn't give up counting and tried to remain conscious so that he could save the world someday. After that, Byakuya decided to fly back to Earth and planned to save their friends. Many hours later, we see Jam's group almost out of air in the hatch. Lily decided to sing, saying they didn't have to worry anymore. Byakuya had paddled a boat and was on his way to save them. He apologized for taking more than 10 hours to arrive. Jam was happy to see his friend and they were rescued. They rode to an island where Dahlia and Jacob were waiting. Later, they saw a person on the island and ran to check if anyone had survived the petrification. They realized the person was petrified and had to accept that no one else had survived. They started looking for firewood and Jam noticed Connie was crying. Shortly after, Byakuya found a survival kit and they felt confident they could survive on the island. Suddenly, Connie said she had lived on a farm and could find food. Jam and Connie went into the forest together. 3 years passed. Dahlia looked at the sea with her children. Then we see Connie and Jam's wedding. They celebrated their marriage and everyone congratulated them. Jam said there were more important things than his wedding to focus on. Suddenly, Lily offered to sing a song to celebrate. They enjoyed their time together and listened to Lily's song. She remembered when she learned about music and realized her passion for singing. She started crying and ran away. Lily told Byakuya that she felt sad thinking music might be forgotten someday. Byakuya cheered her up and said that his son Senku would definitely save humanity. He also shared that he wasn't blood-related to Senku, but believed Senku was 10 billion times smarter than him. He promised Lily that Senku would save humanity and that they must do their best to support him. Back in the present, they learned they were all descended from the 6 surviving people. Kahaku thought they were all related to Senku, but Senku clarified that he wasn't blood-related to Byakuya. They were then invited to the festival and celebrated Senku becoming the new village chief. Everyone had a great time, and Kahaku was happy the village had become lively since Senku's arrival. Suddenly, Kinro appeared and forced Jinro to guard the bridge with him. Senku was walking with Ruri, who told him the rest of his father's story. Connie had suffered from a serious illness, and Dahlia planned to sail with her husband to the main island to find medicine. Unfortunately, they never returned, and Connie died. Jam was heartbroken and couldn't believe his beloved wife had passed away. Months later, Jam also became sick. Before his death, he said he had a lot of fun with everyone and thanked Byakuya for the great times. That evening, Jam passed away and Byakuya looked at the stars shining brightly. A few weeks later, he decided to leave wisdom for their descendants, calling it the 100 Tales. Byakuya believed that one day a story about minerals would lead someone to collect stones, which is how Senku learned about Byakuya's plan. Senku smiled, realizing that Chrome became that person. Afterward, they arrived at the graves of their ancestors and Senku was amazed by his father's work. Before Byakuya died, he delivered a message in the final story of the 100 Tales. His words to Senku were that he was fine and had enjoyed life despite the disaster. He told Senku he believed in him and knew he would save humanity. Byakuya's last words were emotional and Senku felt them deeply in his heart. Before returning to the feast, he visited his father's grave. He smiled and was touched by his beloved father's words. As a result, Senku was more motivated than ever to save humanity. Later, Gen said he had another message and Senku asked about the Tsukasa Empire. Gen told him that Tsukasa and his army were coming. Senku was ready to fight with the power of science. Gen reported that Tsukasa planned to attack the village to prevent Senku's victory. Jinro felt jealous because he wasn't allowed to celebrate with the villagers. Kinro realized an enemy had appeared and asked Jinro to call for help. Jinro was shocked and Kinro ordered him to destroy the bridge if necessary. Kinro walked backwards, keeping his distance from the enemy, who was impressed by his instincts. The enemies charged toward Kinro, confident they would defeat him. Kinro immediately took down Tsukasa's warriors with his powerful attack. Hyoga looked down on them and scolded them for their failure. Then he ran towards Kinro and noticed Kinro's bad eyesight. Meanwhile, Gen explained that Hyoga had been revived and was very strong. Suddenly, Jinro warned the villagers of the enemy's arrival. Kinro fought Hyoga but barely avoided his attack. Gen saw the fight and watched as Kinro was fatally injured. Kinro ordered his brother to cut the bridge. Kahaku also told Jinro to destroy the bridge to protect the village. Jinro ran to the bridge but hesitated, not wanting to lose his brother. Kinro accepted his fate and Jinro began to cry. Senku decided to save Kinro with science. He put his last gunpowder into a jar. Gen understood the plan and asked Magma to throw a stone. Magma initially refused, but Gen used his mentalist skills to convince him. Senku lit the gunpowder and Magma threw the stone. Gen helped by convincing Tsukasa's army to retreat. They thought Senku had a gun and Hyoga was amazed by him. Senku claimed to have already made thousands of rifles. As a result, they managed to save Kinro and Senku gave him medicine. The next morning, Kinro feared the enemies would return. Senku reassured him they wouldn't come back until a storm. Tsukasa's warriors waited for their chance, but Hyoga didn't want to wait because he knew how dangerous Senku was. Unfortunately, he couldn't convince the others to return and didn't stop the plan to attack. Senku made Kinro a pair of glasses and he liked them. Tsuka also received a new helmet and was happy. Kahaku remained worried about Hyoga. Senku had a plan and Kaseki helped implement it. A few days later, Kahaku predicted a storm was coming. Tsukasa's army prepared to attack. Senku was aware of this and lured them into a trap. Senku's friends attacked the enemies with katana swords. He believed the blade of science could easily defeat them. Hyoga was impressed by their power. Senku remembered when he heated metal and Kaseki forged swords. Senku explained they could create powerful weapons quickly. Kaseki enjoyed forging blades and understood their potential. Back in the present, the Tsukasa army was frightened. Hyoga attacked Magma and many of Senku's warriors were defeated. Kahaku realized Hyoga was in a different league. Gen told Hyoga about the strongest fighter in Senku's group. Kinro understood Gen was trying to warn them. Magma ignored orders and attacked the enemy. Kahaku and Kinro planned a counterattack. Hyoga reacted quickly, and Kahaku couldn't avoid his spear. Just before she was stabbed, the tip of the spear disintegrated. Everyone was confused. Hyoga remembered Gen touching his spear earlier. Gen was accused of being a traitor and expected to be caught. Meanwhile, Tsuka remembered her mission to deliver a knife to General Senku had trusted her detective skills to trace Gen's location. Tsuka found flowers and tracked General back in the present. Gen received the knife and was surprised by the gift. He took his chance and made fun of Hyoga for falling for her tricks and praised Gen, and they defeated the enemy with the blade of science. Following this, we see the day when Tsukasa was reviving a man he had been looking for all this time. Hyoga was revived with the miracle water and was greeted by Tsukasa after awakening. He was told that 3,700 years had passed. Hyoga then learned about Tsukasa's plan to create a new world. Later, some of the others made fun of him for being skinny and bullied him. Suddenly, Tsukasa asked if Hyoga would like to spar with the others. He agreed and said he would defeat 10 of them with his favorite weapon. After the fight, Tsukasa apologized that the weaklings weren't enough to warm him up. Hyoga replied that the only real fighter stood before him, and they shook hands. Tsukasa then led his new member into the Tsukasa Empire, which consisted of many strong and young people. He told Hyoga that he intended to create a peaceful world. Manami welcomed Hyoga to the Tsukasa Empire and said she was happier in the new world. She also mentioned that she was a big fan of the strongest primate, Tsukasa. Everyone admired Tsukasa, and Gen remembered how charismatic he had always been. Gen was aware that it would be difficult to convince the enemies to switch sides. Tsukasa then asked his new member if he agreed that the weapons of science should no longer exist. Hyoga shared the same opinion and said that the desires of the old world must remain extinguished forever. Tsukasa said that Senku was trying to bring civilization back, and if he were still alive, he would kill him with his own hands. Back in the present, they managed to surround Hyuga, and the guerrillas of the Tsukasa army decided to retreat. Meanwhile, Hyuga was impressed by Senku and his friends, but he said the fight was just a distraction. Senku looked at the village and realized that Ishigami village was burning. The villagers tried to put out the fire, but it spread too quickly. The cause was Hamura, who had sneaked into the village to kill them. She also destroyed a bridge, causing massive trouble for the villagers. This is how Team Senku discovered Hamura, and they learned that she was Hyuga's right hand. She was very capable and even dodged Kokio's attack. Then Kahaku attacked Hamura, but she managed to dodge her with incredible moves. Hyuga and Hamura fled, and the village continued to burn. Meanwhile, Gen tried to evacuate the residents, and Senku ordered the villagers to flee immediately. Ruri was desperate, and Senku's team tried to save everyone. As a result, they managed to evacuate all the villagers, while the Tsukasa army watched. One of the men was about to cause trouble, and Hyuga planned his next attack. Senku's team had fallen into a trap, and Hamura had caused the fire. All the villagers tried to extinguish it, and Jinro despaired as their hard work was being destroyed. Suka intended to protect the Kingdom of Science and lured the guerrillas away from Senku's kingdom. Hyuga was grateful they were foolish because it increased his chances of winning. Suka successfully led the enemies away toward the hot springs where they had found dangerous water. Kahaku and Senku were worried about Suka because of the changing weather. The wind carried the poisonous gas towards Suka, and Hamura sensed death at the last moment. Kahaku appeared just in time and saved Suka from the poisonous gas. The guerrillas also noticed the danger and climbed into a tree. Senku mocked them, saying he had defeated them with science. He laughed and said they would have to wait in the tree for a long time. Hyuga decided to sacrifice some of Tsukasa's soldiers to confirm that Senku wasn't lying. He realized Senku's gas masks were real and acknowledged that Senku was a dangerous enemy. Kokio celebrated the victory and praised Suka for her help. Meanwhile, Hyuga devised a plan to defeat the Kingdom of Science. A few days later, Jin asked Senku about his plan. Unfortunately, Senku couldn't produce gunpowder. He explained that Tsukasa had control of the cave needed for nitric acid and that he couldn't make gunpowder without it. Additionally, Tsukasa had an army ready to attack. Senku explained that his plan was to attack the Tsukasa Empire first. Kahaku liked the idea. Senku then told them that, with the power of science, he would build a great machine to help win the war. He announced that he planned to produce cellular phones. Jen thought he was crazy and wondered how that would be possible. Later, all the villagers learned about the purpose of the phones and were confused. Senku explained that communication would help them win the war without fighting. Jinro wondered who the double agent was, and Senku looked at the flag of science. He said he already had spies in the Tsukasa Empire and that Taiju would love the idea. After that, they began drawing the next roadmap to produce a smartphone in the stone world. Meanwhile, Hyuga returned to the Tsukasa Empire and reported to Tsukasa that Senku was still alive. Tsukasa was shocked and angry. Gen used his mentalist skills to imitate Tsukasa's voice perfectly. Tsukasa then decided to revive more fighters. Hyuga advised that winter would be the most effective time to attack. Chrome asked if Senku's friends were in danger, but Hyuga said they would serve as hostages if necessary. Hyuga also told Tsukasa that he had ordered Hamura to keep an eye on Senku. He was aware that communication was the most powerful weapon in the stone world. In the following days, all the villagers helped with Senku's project. Kaseki was happy that Senku became the village chief and that their progress sped up. Chrome and Kaseki wanted to know more about his invention and got excited. Senku explained that they would use vibrations in their voices to transmit sound to another device using radio waves. The villagers didn't understand, so Senku said their next project would be making a cotton candy machine. Jen was confused about why they needed it. Senku poured molten iron into a container, and Kaseki began shaping component. Senku explained that he used this invention to make cotton candy by spinning sugar over fire. Chrome realized Senku wanted to make gold threads, and Jen understood his plan. Chrome went to get gold, but Senku first wanted to test the machine by making cotton candy. Senku visited the destroyed village and discovered that the sugar had fallen into pieces at the edges of the barrels. However, he took advantage of the teamwork between the two brothers and created sugar threads. The girls were excited and loved Senku's cotton candy. They praised the sweet taste of the fluffy snack. Kokyo tried it as well, and the other villagers were grateful to taste it too. Senku was happy to see them smiling. Jen gave him an idea and asked about Hamura. Jinro misunderstood something, and Senku told him that Hamura had been watching them from afar. Jinro was scared, but Jen assured him she wouldn't disobey Hyoga's orders. In the evening, Senku visited Hamura and brought her some cotton candy. He left a letter saying the cotton candy wasn't poisoned. The gift was part of his plan to get Hamura to switch sides. Ruri remembered an evening with Senku and said he was just pretending to be a bad guy but was really trying to be kind. Hamura licked the cotton candy and recalled her childhood. The next morning, Jinro was serving cotton candy. Jen joked that he was like Gordon Ramsay and criticized the fluffiness. Jinro complained and asked what cotton candy had to do with the war. Senku told him to relax and that soon they would use the machine to make valuable gold threads. They continued working on the cotton candy machine and found the issue that caused clumps. Senku devised a plan to make the rotation smoother, and everyone offered suggestions. Suddenly, Senku had an idea and asked Kaseki for help. Kaseki carved him a gear, and Senku wanted to use Kahaku's shield. Kokyo was shocked because it was a lucky charm he had given his beloved daughter. He hoped Kahaku would stop Senku, but she didn't mind losing her shield. In the afternoon, they received the gear that improved the cotton candy production. Suddenly, Chrome had an idea. Senku asked Kaseki for help. Kaseki was excited about the plan and immediately wanted to implement Chrome's idea. In the meantime, Senku had successfully made gold coil out of gold and wanted to process it further. When he shared his plan, everyone was shocked. The villagers worked together on Senku's new invention and repeated the process. Senku's team worked every day without a break and came closer to their goal of building a phone. A few days later, Chrome returned and worked for 3 days straight to build his invention. Later, Senku saw the water wheel built by Kaseki and Chrome. He was surprised by Chrome's independently developed idea. Chrome was disappointed because Senku had already figured out the invention, but Senku praised both Chrome and Kaseki for being a great help in the war. Senku quickly decided to use the water wheel and incorporated it into a new invention. As a result, he created a hydroelectric power plant. He revealed the miracle they had built together, and everyone was amazed by the power station. His friends asked what it was, and Senku explained that the generator would produce electricity. He mentioned that the power station wasn't complete yet, and they needed to build a box to collect the escaping electricity. Later, Senku began his plan to make a battery to store the electricity. Kaseki and Chrome helped him, and he used sulfuric acid and named the battery Ryu. Senku built the battery in just a few hours. Jinro learned about the danger of electricity, while Kahaku enjoyed watching the process. At that moment, he realized that with Kinro, he would no longer need to exert himself to generate energy again. Afterwards, Kahaku began a workout plan to prepare the boys for the fight against Tsukasa. Senku was working on his next invention but made a mistake. Suddenly, Kaseki and Chrome woke up and couldn't stop working because they were having too much fun. They started helping Senku and managed to build a new machine. As a result, they created an air-blowing machine at level 3. Later, Kokyo learned about a way to preserve food for the winter. He was impressed and excited to learn something new. Then Senku attempted to build a light bulb, but his efforts failed multiple times. Meanwhile, Kaseki said that despite the hard work, he was having fun and enjoyed building things with Senku. He said Senku is a great person, and the villagers enjoyed supporting his goal. Together, they harvested a lot of vegetables and came closer to their goal of building a civilization. The two cute twins were stomping grapes to make wine. Everyone continued working diligently and helped expand the kingdom of science. A few months passed, and the weather started to change. Senku and his friends were ready for winter and the upcoming battle against Tsukasa. When winter came, Chrome remembered that last time the light bulb had gone out immediately. He explained the process of building a more environmentally friendly light bulb. As a result, they succeeded in building one that didn't go out. At night, all the villagers gathered and Kahaku called for everyone. Senku said that the time was coming soon. Suddenly, it started snowing and Kaseki responded that they were ready. At the right moment, Senku turned on the lights, revealing a beautiful Christmas tree that marked the beginning of the Christmas season. Senku said it was Christmas. In addition, Santa Claus from another Isekai anime appeared, having been reincarnated into the Stone Age world. In the following mornings, Chrome realized they could now enter caves without getting lost. Motivated, he wanted to find more rare stones to help Senku build the cell phone. Senku understood Chrome's excitement and asked him to return before the new year. Afterwards, Senku planned to invent the next version of the light bulb. He told Kaseki about the plan and explained that it would serve as the heart of the cell phone. They realized they had made a mistake, causing the light bulb to break. Senku then came up with a plan to solve the problem and worked with his team into the night. A few days later, Chrome returned with a piece of copper and Senku confiscated a collected stone. He began building a solution to the problem, but it failed because the bamboo filament burned out. That evening, Senku was depressed and Kahaku tried to cheer him up. Unfortunately, Senku didn't have a plan. The villagers wanted to help and hoped to find a solution in Chrome's stone collection. Meanwhile, Jinro realized he was holding raccoon poop, which made Senku feel worse. Suka tried to cheer him up by looking for a rare rock. Senku couldn't sleep, frustrated by the failure of the cell phone project. Suddenly, Jen appeared and announced it was New Year. The villagers gathered to watch the sunrise. Jen admitted he didn't know his age anymore, but Senku knew his exact age. They climbed the highest mountain and Senku noticed that Suka's stone was glowing. He realized it was a gift from Santa Claus. Suka had found a gemstone and Senku explained it was skylight and that it reacted to sunlight. It was the solution they needed. That afternoon, Senku began forming a team to find more of the valuable gemstone. He assessed his friend's strengths and chose magma, planning a dungeon expedition. That afternoon, Senku began forming a team to find more of the valuable gemstone. He assessed his friend's strengths and chose magma, planning a dungeon expedition. His friends worried, but Senku was focused on building a cell phone. Chrome was concerned that magma might try to kill them, but Senku believed they had no choice and needed magma's strength. Senku warned the team about the danger of fragile rocks. Magma asked if they'd die if they fell into a hole. Senku made a misstep and Magma sacrificed himself to save him. Magma fell, but Senku grabbed his hand. Chrome thought Magma was trying to push Senku, but in truth, Magma was trying to save him. Eventually, both Senku and Magma fell into the hole. Trapped, Senku tried to find a way out while Magma grew annoyed. Senku said it was better than doing nothing. Chrome poured water into the hole so they could swim out. Senku laughed, impressed by the idea. He calculated the depth and came up with a formula. Chrome encouraged him, and Magma threw down a water pump. Senku explained to Magma that civilization needs both intelligence and strength. He began showing Magma the power of science. Magma remembered the amazing things science had created. Meanwhile, Chrome struggled to fill the hole with enough water. Senku was freezing and Magma let him stand on his shoulders. He accepted Senku as his boss until they defeated Tsukasa, then threw him out of the hole. Chrome was shocked by Magma's loyalty. After escaping, they discussed worst-case scenarios. Senku joked that they'd have to warm each other with body heat like vegans. They were all relieved not to be vegan and joked that they were all into girls. After a nap, Senku made a flashlight and they continued exploring. Later, Senku smiled, saying they had reached the right place. He discovered a rare or deposit and explained how the rock colors formed. Without Magma, they never would have found it. Magma joked about killing them with his pickaxe, but Senku knew he was just playing the villain. He explained to Chrome that Magma had protected them the entire time. Chrome apologized to Magma. They joked about playing Minecraft and acquired the most heat-resistant rock in the universe. Chrome said they had found something more valuable than treasure, true friendship. Senku and Magma were disgusted by the sentiment and started digging up the treasure. Before they left, Magma remembered Jen's words to bring Senku back after 3 days. On the way back, Magma blindfolded Senku. Jen and Kahaku were waiting with a surprise. Senku thought they were planning to betray him, but Gen said he had no idea what he was talking about and told Kahaku to remove the blindfold. Senku realized they had built him an observatory with a telescope. He remembered the gift from his father. Kahaku said it was Senku's special day. The villagers had been planning to celebrate his birthday. 3 days earlier, Gen had suggested building something special for him. Everyone helped to build Senku a laboratory. Jinro teased him, saying he should be happy to have such great friends. Senku was grateful but wondered how they knew his birthday. He remembered telling Gen his birth date. Gen replied that he discovered the tree where Senku had carved his revival date. Senku realized that Gen had chosen to support him even before they met. Though not an emotional person, he was touched. Later, Suka tested the telescope and was amazed to see animals far away. Senku and his friends noticed the rare stones sparkled like diamonds. Kokuyo thought they were making weapons, but Gen explained they were building cell phones. Senku said they now had the parts to build one. He planned to use the collected tungsten in vacuum tubes and knew they had found a truly valuable treasure. Magma learned they needed the stone's core and started destroying it. Kokuyo was surprised and asked if something had happened in the cave. The reason was that Senku and Magma had become friends. The following morning, Senku explained that they would begin heating the tungsten toothpaste. Chrome then learned that they couldn't heat tungsten toothpaste and glass together. Senku explained to them that they would split up and one person would have to make a pinpoint heating machine suddenly. Chrome realized that he was being entrusted with the important task. Chrome was happy and said that with science, he would succeed in his task. Kaseki was jealous of their great friendship and told them about his past. They learned that he loved building new things, so he said he would also like to have a maker buddy. Suddenly, Chrome said that he was wrong and that he and Senku were his maker buddies. Kaseki thought he was too old, but Chrome replied that his age didn't matter. At that moment, Kaseki remembered the wonderful time he had spent with the two boys. He realized that they were both right and was grateful for their words. As a result, he transformed into mutant and started working on the new project. Meanwhile, Gen was forced to assist Senku and didn't understand a single word of his orders. Soon after, Chrome created a giant lens and they all trusted Chrome's idea. Kaseki wondered if the heat was enough and they started the test. Following this, they conducted a test, but they noticed that the lens did nothing. Chrome tried a new idea and used all his scientific knowledge to solve the problem. His plan started working and he was punished for calling Kahaku a gorilla. The following morning, Senku finished making tungsten toothpaste and was shocked after seeing Chrome's build machine. Chrome said he used all his knowledge and Senku was proud of his student. Then Senku said that with the power of science, they would change the world. Senku and his friends started working. As a result, they received the most heat-resistant metal in the universe, which is also called tungsten filament. Following this, Senku said that they had all the parts and could start building a cell phone. Kaseki was motivated and Senku explained the plan and the necessary glass instruments to his friends. Kaseki looked at his idea and was shocked by Senku's Hickman pump. Senku said they had already built a level 1 Hickman pump and now needed to build a more complicated one. Unfortunately, Kaseki was unsure if he could build a Hickman pump and Gen used his mentalist skills to motivate him. Kaseki replied that he didn't want to be cheered up by the mentalist skills but wanted the support of his maker buddy. Senku entrusted him with the project. Suka also wanted to help Senku, so he entrusted the children with the wires. Suka and the other children began to help Senku with his project. Later, Senku started making plastic with the chemistry team and Gen wanted to know how he planned to create it. Suddenly, Kaseki appeared and forced Gen to help him with his work. Senku started making plastic and Chrome didn't understand the work process. However, Senku explained the details and Chrome was disgusted by the smell of the chemical. Shortly after, Senku noticed that Suka and the other villagers were shaking, so he decided to help them with his next project. Senku planned to get a large amount of coal with his friends. Jinro planned to run away, but Kinro stopped him and he was forced to collect coal with them. Senku's friends went to the mountains and they made a furnace. Senku also built a warm hut for the kids so they would not freeze in the cold winter. Besides, he could use the coal ash for his project. Later, Kokuyo showed up and was happy that Senku became the village chief because he had created many miracles since the day he arrived. In the afternoon, Senku asked Gen to do him a favor. He started rolling zinc like an onigiri and realized that building a zinc-carbon battery wasn't that difficult. So he started building several of them and was shocked that Senku needed 800 of them. Meanwhile, Kahaku brought him a wine barrel and he explained that they would use the pink grains stuck on the lid. In the days that followed, Senku began the final steps to build his cell phone. All the villagers joined forces and worked for days straight. Someday, Jinro tried to run away, but Kinro forced him to help with building the body parts for the cell phone. As a result, they managed to produce many new inventions to expand the kingdom of science. After a few weeks, they managed to build the body parts needed for a cell phone. Senku said they could create the most powerful weapon in the modern world, and the final day had come to build a cell phone. After months of work, Senku and his friends completed a cell phone in the Stone Age world. We then see the petrified statues, and Senku was aware that he had progressed very well since his revival. He looked at his latest invention with his friends, and they celebrated the successful project that would bring them victory. Then Kahaku imagined sending her voice from a long distance to another place. Unfortunately, Senku said they would need a second cell phone, and everyone was disappointed. He then set up a long cable and said that it would also work combined with a speaker. Meanwhile, Jinro realized he could use this to confess his love to Ruri. Everyone wanted to hear his confession, and Chrome planned to confess his love to her. So Suka activated the cell phone, but Chrome didn't have the courage to confess his love. He said that science is great, and everyone was shocked that he didn't take advantage of his opportunity. Meanwhile, Ruri said it worked like a speaker, and Senku realized that a speaker didn't exist in the stone world. He learned that the children also knew about the word speaker. Then Ruri said that one of the 100 tales tells about a bee. The story is about a bee that injures its needle and becomes very loud because of the pain. At that moment, Senku remembered his father's grave and understood the reason for the story about the bees. Senku ran with his friends to his father's grave and believed that there was a treasure in the gravestone. Then he laughed and said that the gravestone was a time capsule from his father. Magma planned to destroy the gravestone, but Senku stopped him, and Kahaku used her skills to get to the time capsule. After that, he went to his laboratory and realized that he received a record from his father. Jen was shocked to see a record and was excited to see what would happen next. Senku replied that his father and his crew had left them a message. Then Senku told them they could use it to capture voices, but they didn't understand a single word. Senku explained that they would add the voice to the record using sound and a needle. They were impressed by Senku's father, but he knew his father wasn't smart enough to build it. Then we see Byakuya. He found a glass bottle on the beach, had the idea of making a record out of it, and asked his friends to help him. Suddenly, Jam walked away and said that they didn't have enough parts to make a record. Byakuya thought he didn't want to help, but later learned he went to look for the missing components in the Soyuz. Senku had the same idea as his father 1,000 years ago and planned to build a record player with his friends. Ruri brought him a needle, but they still needed a hard rock to build a record player. Following this, we see that Dahlia wanted to use her diamond wedding ring to build the record player. She said she would be happier using it as a component for the record player. After that, we see Senku building a record player, and all the villagers were called to his laboratory. They learned that they would hear the voices of the founders of Ishigami village. Then Senku began to prepare everything necessary and placed the needle on the record. Suddenly, the villagers heard Byakuya's voice and were happy to share this special moment together. Everyone was fascinated to hear Senku's father's voice, and they learned that he was just like Senku. Byakuya had a special message for Senku, and Senku learned that his father believed he would be revived. However, he knew that Senku was not a dramatic person and started talking about his gift. Then he handed the microphone to Lillian, and they all listened to her beautiful voice. The reason was that Byakuya wanted to bring joy to his son through music, so he would never give up. As a result, all the villagers learned the miracle that came through music and couldn't believe she sang as beautifully as Rihanna. At that moment, Senku remembered the day he was revived. He experienced numerous adventures and achieved many accomplishments in science. He smiled and was grateful for the beautiful message from his father. Suddenly, all the villagers started crying and admired the beautiful song that Lillian had sung. They realized the power of science and looked forward to experiencing more miracles with Senku. Then they decided to defeat the Tsukasa Empire. Jen was impressed by Byakuya, who, even after his death, managed to motivate all the villagers to bring back civilization. Senku looked forward, and Kahaku said that he kept his promise. She remembered when Senku said he would build the whole village into a nation of science. Following this, she said that she was willing to spend her life with him and that they would defeat the Tsukasa Empire to bring back civilization. Meanwhile, Taiju and Yuzuriha were aware that 1 year had passed. Tsukasa was sure he would win the final battle against Senku and looked forward to the future. Afterwards, we see Senku planning to use the power of science and his elite warriors to win against Tsukasa.